Our top story for our afternoon WIFR Fastcast, the Boone County Coroner's Office identifies the 83-year-old pilot killed in a small plane crash in Poplar Grove. Investigators say Rockford man Richard McClung crashed his plane into a home Saturday afternoon. The Illinois State Police list McClung on the sex offender registry. He was registered in 2007 and convicted in 2014 of aggravated criminal sexual abuse of a 6-year-old. An ongoing lawsuit accuses McClung of also abusing an 8-year-old girl when he was a counselor to the bishop position with the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. WIFR's Nathaniel Langley will be live at the Poplar Grove Airport, where he digs through court records and the legal entanglement McClung faced. 49-year-old Toyo Perez of Beloit will appear in a Rock County courtroom Thursday afternoon, facing almost 20 charges. In late January, deputies say Perez abused a disabled adult when she was a caregiver. Investigators believe surveillance cameras caught Perez with the crime. She was later taken into custody. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker proposes a $56 billion budget for fiscal year 2027 during his annual State of State budget address on Wednesday. Pritzker says he's opting for tax increases that will be paid by businesses rather than consumers. The proposals do not include program cuts. The governor also announced the Building Up Illinois Development's Plan, or BUILD, that would lower housing costs to make it easier, faster, and more cost-effective to build homes. Pritzker also calls for taxes on social media companies with at least 100,000 users in Illinois, while also criticizing the Trump administration's efforts to cut federal funds.
We've been building a fiscal foundation to ensure that come hell or high water, including the turbulence of Donald Trump, we can manage through the hard times and nevertheless make progress for a brighter future.
I will be breaking down the full budget address at WIFR News Now at 5. Several Illinois Democrat lawmakers praise Governor Pritzker's budget plan. Representative Maurice West says the federal government's actions, it's absolutely critical to go line by line through the governor's proposal to ensure the residents of Rockford will see direct relief. State Senator Steve Stottleman says he's happy to see funding for manufacturing training academies, pre-apprenticeship programs, and rebuilding Illinois downtowns and main streets.
The commitment to workforce development, pre-apprenticeship programs, again, that will help boost economic development, provide a framework for manufacturers and businesses to excel. I love the proposal to help make housing more affordable. That will help customers in the area. So again, I think there are a lot of things to help boost economic development and businesses in this speech.
Illinois Republican lawmakers call the governor's budget plan a fiscal game shell. Representative John Cabello says Illinois doesn't have a revenue problem, but a spending problem. Representative Joe Sosnowski says the state's #1 priority should be affordability. State Senator Andrew Chesney says Pritzker and Democrat lawmakers completely fail to make Illinois more affordable, and the Prairie State is behind when it comes to the national economy.
It is J.B. Pritzker, it is not Donald Trump, who has raised the state government spending by $17 billion since becoming governor. It is J.B. Pritzker, it is not Donald Trump, who is responsible for spending billions and billions of dollars on illegal immigrants. It is J.B. Pritzker, not Donald Trump, that chose to use COVID relief dollars to create new programs rather than paying down debt.
The White House rebuffed the latest proposal from congressional Democrats to end the partial government shutdown and fund the Department of Homeland Security. Democrats remain firm in their demands for significant reforms to ICE and DHS oversight, including requiring federal agents to get judicial warrants before entering private property and to remove masks during operations. The Department of Homeland Security warned a long shutdown would impact more than 200,000 DHS employees and could lead to disruptions with the TSA, FEMA, and the Coast Guard.
Last night they sent over a counter proposal that frankly was very unserious, and we hope they get serious very soon because Americans are going to be impacted by this.
Republicans have decided that they would rather shut down FEMA, shut down TSA, and shut down the Coast Guard than get ICE under control.
Northern Illinois University's football head coach Thomas Hammock plans to take his talents to the defending NFL champions, Seattle Seahawks. Hammock reportedly will become the highest paid running backs coach in the NFL as he rejoins Seahawks head coach Mike McDaniel. During his 8 seasons in DeKalb, Hammock won 35 games, including one of the biggest upsets in program history when his team defeated then 5th-ranked Notre Dame in 2024. Current defensive coordinator Rob Harley was named interim head coach. The change comes as the team will join the Mountain West Conference after spending almost 3 decades in the Mid-American Conference. Orangeville native Tessa Janicki is 1 win away from the gold in her first Olympic Games. She has 5 assists so far, tying the team lead for an undefeated Team USA that's allowed 1 goal in 6 games so far. The team takes on Canada Thursday afternoon, who lost in the gold medal game in 2022, but then beat them in a 5-0 shutout in the preliminary round. And as part of our We the People series at WIFR, the Underground Railroad was a pathway to freedom for tens of thousands of slaves pre-Civil War. Few knew the routes like Harriet Tubman. Ryan Henson takes you to the eastern shore of Maryland, where her journey to becoming an American hero began.
So our design concept is the view north. So we're starting in the hallway towards the exhibits. It's dark, it's cramped, representing the oppression of slavery in Maryland.
Expansive marshes and thick forests make up Dorchester County on Maryland's eastern shore. It's terrain that Harriet Tubman knew like the back of her hand. Now that same land is home to the Harriet Tubman Underground Railroad State Park and Visitor Center. It gives people a deeper glimpse into Tubman's life.
You can read stories, but if you don't have that much of an imagination, it's hard to really get that full imagery. So being able to see Harriet Tubman reaching out for people, to help people, can make a huge impact.
Harriet Tubman was born a slave in March of 1822. She escaped in 1849, running up through Delaware to Philadelphia, 125 miles away to freedom.
She was alone, and she thought of her friends and family in Dorchester County, and there's a quote, "If I was free, then they should be free." So she came back around 13 times, and she was able to lead around 70 people that she knew and trusted to freedom.
So one of the things that has been preserved through the years is a list of names of slaves freed by Harriet Tubman.
She began craving freedom at age 13. A slave overseer intended to throw a 2-pound weight at an escaping slave, but missed and hit Tubman in the head at the Bucktown Village store. As a result of a fractured skull, she became permanently disabled, suffering migraines, narcolepsy, and epilepsy. It was at that moment where she said she began having visions from God.
So the Underground Railroad wasn't actually underground. It was a network of allies sympathetic to slaves looking for freedom. And it actually went 2 different directions. So obviously it started in the Deep South and it went up through the north and even to Canada, where freedom could be guaranteed, or some slaves even went south to Mexico.
Travelers on the Underground Railroad had to be cunning and use coded messages. They even carefully hung quilts outside to navigate the mapless path. Slaves and sympathizers who were caught suffered severe punishment and even death in many cases. Tubman would use her experience to tell others about the path to freedom. She freed more than 750 slaves and served as a scout and nurse during the Civil War. She also used her influential voice during the women's suffrage movement before dying in her 90s in upstate New York.
She was a true American hero.
The same community Tubman escaped centuries ago now makes sure her life and legacy continues to shine bright like the North Star. In Dorchester County, Maryland, I'm Ryan Henson.
And if you've had the chance to step outside and soak in some of the sun here on our Wednesday, unfortunately, it does seem like things are going to be cooling off here. So definitely going to want to head out there and maybe get a little bit of that sunshine and some of that warmth here before it goes away. Fortunately, we still do have just about another day here of some of those warm temperatures here in the middle of February. So let's take a look now at our 7-day forecast. So as you can see here on our Wednesday, 65 degrees there for our high, which is pretty unheard of here for this time of year. And obviously you can see we've got that first alert weather alert there for you guys. And essentially what that is about the high fire risk. Of course, we aren't going to want you guys to be out there burning anything. Of course, those cigarette butts, going to want to make sure that those are not ending up out on the grass or on any sorts of dry shrubbery or anything like that. Going to want to make sure that all those fires are being extinguished as well. Moving into our Thursday, though, it looks like we've got a 70% chance for some storms here tomorrow night. That being said, 56 degrees, so still pleasantly warm here for the middle of February. Once we move into Friday, though, that's when things are going to start cooling off, and it does look like we're going to start getting those chances for some of those snow flurries back as well. 40 degrees again for our high there on Friday, 35 on Saturday, dropping those precipitation chances, cooling off even more into our Sunday for a high of 30 degrees. Take a look at those low temperatures there as well, 19 and 15 degrees, so certainly a far cry from what we've been experiencing here in the lows department here the last couple of days. Monday and Tuesday, though, it does look like things are going to be warming up just a tad, and hey, we'll take a 10-degree warm up when we can, wherever we can here in the middle of February. Now, winter is starting to come to a close, but that doesn't mean that she's done giving us some tricky travel in the weeks to come here. To keep us safe on our roads during winter weather conditions, we use salt. And in this edition of Shelter from the Storm, meteorologist DJ Baker looks at how salt helps us deal with ice.
Salt. It is found all over the globe, from our oceans to our table, and even in our bodies. Of course, during winter, we also find salt all over our roads to help ease slick conditions. The salt itself doesn't melt ice. Instead, it mixes with a thin layer of water that exists outside the ice. If there isn't any salt, the water can freeze with no problem. Add salt to that water, it can't freeze as easily. When we have water that is harder to freeze on top of ice that is constantly melting, we can get rid of most of it. The temperatures and the makeup of the salt you use play a huge role in how effectively it melts the hard stuff. Normal table salt, or rock salt, is made up of sodium chloride, which breaks down into 2 ions. The salt that our snowplows use is made up of calcium chloride, which breaks down into 3 ions. The more ions in the water, the harder it is to freeze. Rock salt works great when temperatures are around freezing. At 30 degrees, 1 pound of salt can melt a little more than 46 pounds of ice. But when temperatures drop to 0 or into the negative territory, rock salt just doesn't work. Choose a calcium chloride mixture, and it can melt ice all the way down to negative 25 degrees. It also works great at melting ice in warmer temperatures. Here is the downside. The chloride in salt is extremely bad for our environment. It dries out our plants and changes the soil, making it hard for plants to grow. If enough gets into our waterways, it can even kill aquatic animals. There are safer environmental alternatives such as magnesium chloride or beet juice, but we still run into some issues over cost and effectiveness at cooler temperatures. So next time you have to salt your driveway or sidewalk, be mindful of how much you throw down. Of course, it's always an ice idea to download our WIFR First Alert Weather app so you know when our roads could become slick.
And as the days grow longer and our temperatures warmer, we won't have too much longer to worry about any of those snow or ice impacting our commutes. And speaking of days growing longer, that is next week's topic, where DJ is going to take a look at why we gain the most amount of sunlight in March, along with daylight saving